Good evening to you all. We are thrilled and blessed that you would join us. And those of you that are joining us regularly, we really appreciate you and thank you for your interest and participation in our study. This session is the Lordship of Jesus Christ. It's a continuing series that we're working on, and this is number 23 in the series. As we've said, we don't know where the end is, but we'll get to the end at some point. John chapter 6 is where we will be focusing on tonight, and the first four verses I've called Many Sheep Without a Shepherd. Many sheep without a shepherd. This is a turning point in the ministry of Jesus in public. This account is from John, of course, and it occurs about 1 year after the healing of the nobleman's son, if you'll recall that event. And this period includes, concludes 1 full year of ministry in Galilee, in that region, and Jesus and the disciples together traveling. And there's been a year of successful ministry and great public acclaim and acceptance of Jesus and his teaching. And at this point, there is, it's odd to me that at the end of the first year, things change. The second year of Jesus' public ministry is a year of encountering very fierce and strong opposition. It's just like it turns on a dime. That curtain comes down and the other curtain comes open, and things, the texture and the tone and the emotion changes. One study note for those of you that are scholarly, that the account of the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle recorded in all four Gospels. You understand the blending, and some report more certain things than others. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen, it just means their perspective was different. But all four of the Gospel writers include this miracle in their account. It seems that most of the people that are following Jesus at this time were spectators, somewhat superficial, I'll call them. They just wanted to see the miracles that Jesus was performing and the healings that were occurring in his ministry. This situation seems to be a real concern of Jesus. And centuries change, continents change, culture changes, language changes, and we see that people stay the same. We see very much this occurring in other places and even in our culture and in our country today. These people were in need of protection. Protection from the government, protection from the hierarchy of the spiritual leadership at the temple. They needed spiritual direction, and they desperately needed someone to care for them. They are interested and motivated in the things of spiritual nature, but they have no real shepherd. You see, and this is one of the difficulties in all of our discipleship training. They were effectively prevented from receiving a good relationship with the shepherd because, by their own desire, they want to remain independent and self-sufficient. And that doesn't lend itself to shepherding. You must submit to a shepherd and give up some of the independence that you may want to hang on to, and it's a struggle. One key, however, we'll make it this time, and that is we need more than a shepherd. We need the shepherd. We need Jesus Christ himself, the good shepherd, as he portrays himself to be the shepherd over us. I'll give you just one tragic modern day example. For some people, there's a real crisis in spiritual leadership. You might remember, some of you will, the leader David Koresh of the Branch Davidian sect in Waco, Texas in 1993. A very tragic development in that group and a tragic ending as well. But at the same time, others have found a proper relationship with godly New Testament leadership. I'll call these pastors under-shepherds because of our emphasis, of course, tonight dealing with the shepherd, Jesus himself. And we understand clearly, and this is not a statement for or against any particular person, but under-shepherds need to be submitted to following Jesus Christ. And it should not be so oblique or murky that you don't notice. This needs to be open and above board and plain that the under shepherd, your pastor, needs to be following Jesus Christ in a very open and honest way. If they, the under shepherds, do not follow the leadership of Jesus Christ, frankly, we don't follow them. It's time for you to find another place. If your shepherd, if your pastor is not following Jesus clearly and plainly, you need to find another shepherd. You need to find another under shepherd. In verses 5 through 15, we're still in John chapter 6. I call this the Lord of the Lunch. The Lordship of Jesus Christ reaches to very many aspects and relationships within our lives. And after a long session here of teaching and healing, there arises a pressing need that's very practical that Jesus begins to address. And that is, people get hungry. I can't imagine, those that are so geared to, 1 hour or being let loose from their church service right up 12 o'clock noon, they couldn't sit through hours and hours of Jesus teaching and healing. But we come to that point, and it's time for lunch. And the people have a need, and they're not close to anywhere that provides food. They're not close to town, they're out a ways. And so in verse 5, Jesus asks Philip for the solution to the problem. Now, John knows Jesus as well as anyone. That's clear throughout Jesus' ministry. John is right there. He's Jesus' best friend. And I can go through some documentation to show you that. But in verse 6, John makes this note that all the while that he's questioning Philip, Jesus knows what he's going to do. But he's drawing Philip in. Jesus has that way. And I believe we do too, to draw people in to the thinking and to the consciousness of the problem and the participation in the solution. But let me give you this note. Jesus is not dependent on finding a boy with a lunch. You see, he's going to miraculously provide a meal for the people with or without the lunch of the boy. Is he going to use that? Yes. Is he going to touch this boy's life? Absolutely. But that doesn't deter him from doing what he needs to do, what he plans to do. He's consulting with Philip. He's not being disingenuous. He's not being phony about this. He's drawing Philip in to include him, but he knows he's going to do something. He's going to do something here. Jesus doesn't get stuck like I do. You get to a certain point, and I got 3 different options. I don't know, this one is quick, this one is easy, and this one's expensive. And, and then we wrestle back and forth and trade off. Should I do this one? Well, there's this positive and this negative. And Jesus doesn't have this problem. He doesn't have this problem. So I'll call it the Philip report. The Philip report says that the treasury balance is too low to pay for this. So what's the matter? Doesn't Jesus have money? They have money, and we'll get into the amount of it in a few moments. They've got money, but this is a big challenge. This is bigger than the treasury for the disciples and Jesus in this group. Philip's conclusion, and he's not trying to be negative, he's not trying to be discouraging, he just says there's just not enough money on hand to take care of this. What they had on hand was equivalent to 8 months of wages for an average working person. An average working person. So this is not including subsidies and welfares and handouts. This is a person that has a job, maybe a person in a craft or trade of some sort, and 2/3 of a year of their annual wage is what they've got in the basket, in the pouch. I've done some conversion to try to somehow get a handle on the dollars that we're talking about, to just get a grip on how much that would be. How much money do they have? Well, in today's dollars, on an average, now this is an average working person in the United States. If I were to average the world, it would be a significantly different number. And I understand that. But in the United States, what we're talking about is $42,530. 8 months of wages for an average. Now that's averaging all earners in all fields over the course of a year. In this case, we're looking at 8 months' time. We have the report, of course, that this group is 5,000 men. Now that doesn't, in this case, it doesn't mean people, it means men. It means males. All right? So they counted the men, and we got 5,000 in the group. And I just want to do some reasonable assumptions to try to get a feel for the size of the crowd. Would it be reasonable to assume that there would be 5,000 women? I think that's reasonable. In fact, at almost every church I've been to, which is, I've spoken in between 400 and 500 churches in the world, there's more women than men in every church, without exception. Well, that's another problem to address for another day. But I think it's reasonable to assume if there's 5,000 men there, and they've counted noses, there's probably 5,000 women. Now, do you think they dropped their kids off at the daycare? Or did they happen to bring them with them? I picked a low number because I'm just trying to be reasonable in this. And I just think that on average, these 5,000 couples have got 2 children apiece. Some have 1, some have none, some have 12. On average, and I'm trying to hold it down to a reasonable number, maybe there's 2 children apiece for each of the couples that are present in this congregation. So now we're at 20,000 people, aren't we? 5 men, 5 women, 10 kids. We've got 20,000 mouths to feed at least. There might have been more. It's possible or more. Maybe there's less. Maybe there's 15. I'm not trying to be hardline on these numbers. But this would give you a working budget with what we have in the treasury of $2.12 per person to serve lunch. So we'll just agree with Philip. The money we have on hand is not enough to buy lunch. $2.12 a person just is not going to do it. Well, some of my background is in accounting, and so I just somehow go a little further than this. And so what we've got, let's say an average lunch. What would it cost to provide an average lunch? $5? Well, that's a pretty skimpy lunch, but let's just go say, I'm trying to be reasonable. Say $5. Well, then we need $100,000 to feed this crew lunch. We need $100,000. Well, with the available funds of $42,530, we got a shortfall of $57,000. What are we going to do? What in the world are we going to do? Well, we've got Andrew reporting. So I call it the Andrew report. Here he comes, and I'm so impressed with the well-known trait of Andrew. He's known for this one thing. He brings people to Jesus. Have you noticed? Throughout all of the gospel records, Andrew's the one that brings people not just to hear the church service, not just to the crowd. He brings people to Jesus personally and then backs away. Well, sometimes I look at this, and I'm moving sometimes from the defense table over to the prosecutor's table and back again. Andrew, I notice what he doesn't do. I see what he does do, and I'm complimentary, but I see what Andrew doesn't do, and that is he doesn't propose the solution. You think he's a little bit slow and not really interested? No, I don't think so at all. I think Andrew is really sharp, and he's good with people. He simply made available to Jesus what he had. But he didn't direct Jesus on what to do. I'm not impressed with this teaching. Well, I am impressed, but not positively. This teaching that figures out what to do and then tells God what to do about it. How many of us have the tendency to figure out the solution for the situation, and we think, including me, that I've got the solution in my head? Well, some of us then go into the prayer phase, and we begin to ask Jesus. Maybe ask is kind of a light word, for a specific answer that will accomplish the challenge that is before us. Because we think we have figured it out. We've analyzed it. We got some good logic going on in our brain. Are you with me? I'm making fun of myself here. What about this radical idea of presenting the need to Jesus, putting the solution in his hands, and thanking him for the provision in advance, without tailor-making the solution and being disappointed when it doesn't go our way? We get an ego all involved here. Well, or could we actually take the risk of trusting that his solution is better than anything we could ever imagine? Do you know his answer is better than mine? Let me just be bold with you. I think his answer is better than yours. His answer is better. Why do we get involved in this? Andrew had found a boy willing to share his lunch. Andrew's good with people. I want you to see that this interpersonal relationship here. And yet, Andrew also saw the futility and asked the question, which we'll come back to, what are they among so many? He didn't think he had the be-all, end-all answer. He just, here's what I've found. Here's the difference. Andrew demonstrates faith. He trusted that Jesus had the answer. He acted in the belief that his participation could possibly even contribute to the total answer. But he understands the futility. A point of reflection on the persuasive power of Andrew: could you talk a 10-year-old boy out of his lunch? I'm telling you, that's a challenge for every one of us, no matter how good we may think we are with people. 10-year-old boy is going to hang on to his lunch pretty tenaciously. Would you? Except for this strange man coming over here and talking to me and talking me out of my lunch. We need your lunch for the project here, for the solution. Well, I'm not sure you do. I think I'll just keep my lunch. Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew. He's not meaning to be impolite, but I'm impressed with Andrew. Are you? I'm impressed that he is in action, he's in faith, but he's doing something. Explaining away the miracle. I love this part. I love these attempts at people who try to apply human logic and the experience that we have had to make the miracle go away. Because there are people that just can't process a miracle. Now, some of them have decided before the discussion even begins that miracles can't happen. That's their assumption. And there are many people that believe that. Oh, I believe in science. There is a rational explanation for this. Okay, all right, well, let's just go with this for a few minutes. Some Bible critics and even scriptural commentators through the years have chosen to minimize this miracle using one of two techniques. First one is reducing the number of people that are fed. That somehow there's a miscount. Somehow it's not right. The second technique, and we're going to visit these in a minute, the second technique is increasing the amount that of the food that the boy brought. Because it's got to be logical. It's got to make sense. It's got to filter through their logical brain. Let's minimize the miracle for a moment. Well, we'll start by reducing the estimate of the crowd to 500. Let's just go there, just for a moment, just for thinking. Even though they've been seated by the disciples were told to put them in groups of 50, and that makes it pretty easy to count, but we're just going to discount that. Maybe there was a miscount of the crowd. Maybe. We can also consider the explanation about the boy's lunch. Here's what they say. Try not to laugh out loud here. That in those days, they usually baked large loaves of bread. Well, the amount of bread that it's going to take to feed this crowd would fill a 40-foot trailer. 8,000 loaves is the estimate. But in those days, they baked large loaves of bread. Can you imagine a mother sending a young boy out for the day with enough bread to feed 500 people? You see, when they start pushing the miracle down on this area, it starts popping up in another area. How strong do you think this boy is? Do you think this is young Superman who can carry 8,000 loaves of bread? And you push the miracle down here and it comes up over here. I think of the 2 inches of water that they talk about in the Red Sea. That it really wasn't dry land like Scripture says, like Moses wrote, that there was really 2 inches. It was the dry season in the Red Sea, and the Israelites actually got their feet wet in the 2 inches of water as they crossed. And the report that Moses had is just erroneous. But then here's when they pushed the miracle down on this side, Then you got the mightiest army in the world at the time, the mighty army of Egypt. Here they come with their chariots, their horses, and their fighting men, and they all drown in 2 inches of water. You push the miracle down on one side and it pops up on another. They just can't handle this very well. What are they among so many? Now you see the absolute nonsensical logic here, trying to take away the intervention of a miraculous Jesus. They somehow just can't process that. They can't accept that he does things because he is in charge of nature. He is in charge. Well, these are laws of the universe. Who said they were? We did. We're the ones that have, through observation and experimentation, have called it a law of the universe. God didn't call it a law of the universe. He's creative. He can speak things into existence. He can cause things to happen that don't fit our logic. And this is one of those times. What are they among so many? Back to that question. If you were given the extra large lunch of one strong boy, would it be easier to feed 500 people or 5,000? He can't carry enough for 500. I don't think he could carry enough for 50. It just can't happen. I've got some keys here to remember, 3 of them. The first one is this: Jesus accomplished his purpose, just as he always does. Amen? He always accomplishes his purpose. Always. Secondly, however, he will use your resources, no matter how small, to reach and to feed the many. Put that in the category of missions and explore the thoughts that come to your brain. Taking one person, David Livingstone, on a ship from England, and he goes to the jungles of Africa. One man causing a revival everywhere he goes. Many people coming into the kingdom because of one man, one ticket on the ship. Number 3, Jesus took all the lunch of the boy. He didn't take part of it. And for those of you that are stuck in Leviticus, he didn't take 10%. Now, if Jesus took 10%, you'd have a leg to stand on. But let me tell you, brother, you don't have a leg. Jesus took all of it. Yeah. You see, he's not restricted like you are. There are some people stuck on this 10% thing that I'm telling you, they wouldn't give God 11%. That their hand would just kind of shrivel up here if they wrote a check for 11%. Jesus takes all of it. The good part that we need to do is to dedicate all of what we have to him. You know where it did come from. In the beginning, everything you've got, he gave to you. Amen. Don't get chintzy. Don't get cheap with God. And if you're stuck on 10%, you need to get unstuck. Let me just leave it at that. If you think this boy remembers meeting Jesus, you're right. Mom, the lunch you gave me fed 20,000 people. I wish that you could have been there with me to see it. That boy, I don't know his name. We don't know who he is. I think his life got changed that day. That is a miracle that is just astounding. Your lunch fed 20,000 people. How did that happen? Well, it went through Jesus to have that happen. That's right. Now you think of what you may see in your own life as your small assets and your limited resources. Filter it through Jesus and watch what happens.
Amen.
He can multiply things at an insane level that will break your logic bank.
Yes.
This boy's life was changed, I believe. Well, in verses 22 through 38, the sign misunderstood and also explained. In verse 15, the people see Jesus as the political solution to their problems and their frustration, and they say, "You will be king." We now see the Messiah of the Old Testament prophecies has come now, and you are going to run these nasty, filthy Roman soldiers out of God's holy land and city of peace, Jerusalem. Jerusalem. They resent these nasty polytheists tramping around on their holy dirt. Here's the man who's the king. This is the prophesied one. This is the answer to our political problem. Oh, I am so excited that Jesus is going to be king. You know what Jesus did with that? He got in the boat and he went to the other side of the lake. Really? I thought, boy, he would stir the crowd up. No, he just went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and the crowd followed him. Now that's an effort. I've crossed the Sea of Galilee. You see, they didn't have a boat. They had to walk around. That's a hike. I mean, it's hours to walk halfway around the Sea of Galilee, and they did that, and Jesus perceives their intent. You're not surprised at that, and provides no food. That long walk all the way around the Sea of Galilee, and there's no food being served over here. Because he sees their heart. He sees their intention. Imagine the major disappointment today for people who show up for fellowship dinner and it has turned into a Bible study with no food. Oh my. Well, surely we have some coffee and donuts. Nope. No coffee, no crullers, no donuts, no, hello? You think anybody's going to be disappointed? They showed up for a dinner. That was their motivation. The observation of the motivation of most of the people is this: Jesus saw they were following for the food. That's not hard to believe. It's not hard to imagine. If this heartbreaking situation is difficult for you to read, know that it still happens today. Across the centuries, across the continents, across the cultures, across the years, it still happens today. People show up for the food. And let me tell you, there are people that visit around on Sunday morning and they know who has the best lattes and the best croissant and who has the cheap donuts. They know, because that's why they come. The provision of food and entertainment draws a big crowd in churches today. And pretty soon it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, we have the board meeting and we go, hey, this is working. We're getting a big crowd. Like, you know, boy, we really think we're something. Let's just keep offering food and good, solid entertainment. And maybe later on they'll get interested in Bible study. Yeah, maybe. And maybe not. And maybe when you quit serving food, we'll have 25 instead of 2,500. Oh no, Mark, that would never happen. What happened to Jesus? I don't think. I wonder who you think you are. It happened to him. They were following for the food. You think people have changed? I don't. I'm not being negative. I'm trying to be realistic. You can draw a crowd with entertainment and food. In John 6:27, we've got wisdom and understanding from Jesus. He says this, do not work and give your life for food. Obtain that which will last. We're in it for the spiritual long haul. We're in it for the elements that will be eternal. We're not in it for the good donuts. I hear you say amen. We're not in it for the donuts. We're in it for that which is meaningful, that which has substance. I'm tired of hearing about the weather and the trip over and whether you think it will snow tomorrow or not. Let's go for substance for a change. I know it's going to choke some of you, but just what is that? What is that? What are the things that are going to last? Well, I'm telling you, Jesus gives us the revelation, and you can receive it now if you want. He says, I'm the true bread from heaven. Oh, well, what kind of bread is it? It is eternal bread. It is bread of substance. It is bread that feeds your spiritual man, not your earthly man. Jesus wants to be our daily sustenance, where we live on Him. It is symbolically the daily manna that God provided on our journey through the desert. Every day He gave them bread that fell out of the sky. Mark, do you believe that? I've talked with people, they believe that Jesus can forgive sins, Jesus can heal bodies, Jesus can multiply the bread and the fish, but He has trouble making bread. Really? That doesn't seem like a toughie. That doesn't seem like a challenge to a God that spoke the worlds into existence. God, I don't think you can make bread. Oh, please. Oh, please. Today, He will not fit our political agenda. He didn't fit the people in the first century political agenda. They wanted Him to be king. They were pressing. They didn't ask Him if He wanted to be king. They're insisting that He will be king. He will not fit into our brilliant economic plan. Oh, aren't we going to clean up the environment and clean up the government and clean up and empty the prisons and get the world all pristine and pretty so that Jesus can come back to a welcoming world? Tell that story to Noah, where the evil got worse and worse, as it was in the days of Noah. Oh my. You think that happens? It's happening right now.
Right.
There comes a point of maturity, I believe, for the disciples of Jesus Christ when we are no longer satisfied with blessings and miracles. We desire more.
Come on.
There are people that come to a church that we frequent, and every altar call, no matter what the call is, they're up front. They need prayer. Well, they probably do. But they respond to every single call. They go up every day. They need a blessing to go home. We need more than that. We need to raise our expectation level. We must believe and trust in Jesus and eat the bread of heaven.
Amen.
Let me put it another way. We must ingest Jesus Christ Himself. He says He's the bread of heaven. And even He raises the level, the true bread from heaven, according to Romans 8:29. Now I know that 8:28 is one of your favorite verses. All things work together for good. Please finish the verse. There's a qualification there. But then verse 29 tells you what the Father has in mind, and Paul writes, the purpose of the Father is to make us into the likeness of the Son. To make us, to make you, to make me into the likeness of Jesus Christ the Son. How will that happen? By ingesting Him daily, we will begin to become like Him. Like Him. The question is in the text, what is the work of God? We are the work of God. In John 6:29, there's an answer for that question for us today. The work of God is to believe on Jesus Christ. Mark, is it that simple? Is it that easy to say, and that easy to grasp, and that easy to receive? Yes, it is. It isn't complicated. It doesn't challenge your intellect. It challenges your will.
Amen.
And as I referred to the people in the beginning of our lesson tonight, the people were struggling with finding a shepherd because they want to be independent and self-sufficient. And you can't be both. You can't be self-sufficient and walk in faith, believing, and depending on Jesus Christ. You've got to depend upon Him. You've got to depend on His sufficiency. And the work of God is to believe on Jesus Christ. God bless you tonight. I trust that you were inspired and blessed, and we'll hope to see you again. Amen.
This program has been produced by Lives Devoted to Ministries, home of training trainers to lead. We hope you enjoyed this program. For more information on how to contact us and to view other teachings, you can visit ldtms.org. We are a faith-based ministry and welcome your support so you too can be a part of training trainers to lead.